Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Impact Space podcast. I'm joined, as always, by my brother, Mutanda. How you doing, bro?
What's up, brother? Good to be here.
As always, man, as always. Please, everyone, continue to follow us, continue to watch our videos, continue to like, share, and subscribe. We're currently on YouTube, and we're also on Spotify. We love the work that we're doing. We want to continue to reach you. We want to continue to grow what this is, and your support is invaluable. So please continue to like, share, and subscribe. Again, we're on YouTube and we're on Spotify. Today's episode, we are going to dive into tryouts. So today is all about tryouts. We know that club tryouts are happening now as we speak, and in the coming weeks. And so this is what we want to talk about, and specifically how players can navigate the tryout experience. Okay, so tryouts can be a stressful time, right? How do you want to start, brother?
Yeah, first of all, man, it's great to be on with you. I do want to take a moment to pause to just say so many people have so many things going on in their lives, and you never know what people's stories are. So, and this relates to tryouts, actually, because I do think this mindset is important for anyone watching this, listening to us, is we cannot forget that we are blessed to play. So, going into tryouts at whatever stage you are at, whatever environment you're going into, a good place to start is enjoy it. Yes, it can be stressful, and part of it is stressful. You're nervous because you care and you want to play well, you want to make a team. And sometimes it's important to step back and realize if you approach that with joy, if you approach it with a sense of gratitude, right? Even before, making a team or whatever, like that mindset can be empowering in ways you you may not imagine. So, yeah, we're blessed to do this. Blessed to be on with you, Mumbi. So, and I love you, bro. And I think that everybody watching this and listening to this, remember that, first of all, life is so much bigger than football. And at the same time, football is great. You love it. Approach it with the right mindset. Approach it with gratitude. So I would say that to start.
Yeah, I love that. And a much needed message, I think, for many players and families. And I think if that's the approach, no matter what happens during tryouts, it's something that players can continue to lean on as they continue to play the game, because hopefully the tryouts aren't the end of your love and your joy in the game, right? And sometimes that can be a part of that conversation of, if I don't make that team, I'm done, or I'm not going to play again. And that for me is always a really tough one, having that conversation with players and parents, or hearing them talk about the game that way and say, yeah, if he doesn't make that team, it's over. Or if she doesn't make that team, we're not going to try to go to another team, whatever. The game is so much more than one club. It's so much more than one team. It's so much more than one level or badge on a jersey. The game should be enjoyed. And so obviously if you have aspirations of going higher, that's great. That's fantastic. There's more than one avenue or one way to climb that ladder if that's what you're interested in, right? And so understanding that can be huge, because there are tangible results that we're looking for, that some players are looking for in the game, but understand that the journey is not perfect. If you look at so many stories on the men's side, on the women's side in the game, there are players who were told at 12, 13, hey, you're not good enough. You're not big enough. You're not fast enough. You're not strong enough. And we talk about that subjective lens of a coach. Sometimes coaches have these opinions, and that's just sometimes what it is. It's opinion based, right? It's subjective. But that shouldn't deter you from continuing to try, right? And I think that's sometimes what we end up seeing. I know you've seen that as a coach and as a director, and I've seen that as a coach as well. We don't want players to be discouraged from continuing their soccer journey, regardless of what happens at tryouts.
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways we can take this conversation, and I think just from what we were speaking about before, we're mostly going to focus on the player side. I will say, and of course, they're not mutually exclusive, but there's one side that's about coaches, right, or clubs and how they set up tryouts. Of course, these are one impacts the other, and vice versa. But I would consider my main message, and I'm going to return to this right throughout this conversation. My main message to players is, it's about your mindset going in, because, and again, we won't go too deep into this, but there's an argument to be said that at a certain age for clubs, tryouts may not even be necessary or the best thing, right? And here's why. Think about this. You've been in a club for the last calendar year, right? However many months, right, that you've been playing. You've been playing on a certain team. And tryouts happen over the course of what?
A
2-3
day,
days?
2 days.
Yeah, depends, right? So, but you have basically a few days. Okay. Now, let's just think logically here. Is your level going to drastically improve or drastically drop over the course of 3 days? Right? Not really. And anyone who says that is lying to you. Okay, you might have a bad performance. When I say your level drop, I don't mean like, oh, you're going to play the exact same way that you've been playing. That's not it. It's just that obviously the tricky part about tryouts is it's a day or 2 days, whatever it is, and there are lots of players. So this is where maybe we can leave the coaching part, but we have to say this. Clubs do have to really think about how they conduct tryouts. And I know in my role, and I've talked to you about this, offline, but like in my role as a director at Washington Youth Soccer, like with state programming where you get a lot of players from a lot of different places, this is one of the things that we discuss a lot and how we can do it better. And sometimes you get pushback, but I think we do it for the right reasons in terms of how we try to manage it. Because what I try to say is, for example, there's some players who are not needed to be at the tryouts. Right? I'm just saying how we sometimes do it. I'm not saying this is perfect for every environment, but here's why. Is if you know that there are players who over 6-7 months or more, I use that in our EPD context or whatever, but in a club environment for the last 10 months, last year, a player has been playing at a certain level, and then you say, okay, but now I'm going to give them 2 days to prove that they belong at that level again. Does that really make sense? Because what you're doing potentially is you might be blocking the chance to see somebody fresh, somebody new. Okay. And this is really a critique of how youth soccer is structured, right? And that clubs have revenue, right? Because tryouts can be a revenue stream. You pay this and then you try out. The kids, 90% of the kids who were on the team last year, if it's a certain level of team at a club, are going to be on that team again. So what are we actually doing at tryouts? Right now, I will leave that conversation. That's maybe a different segment from what we want to take it to. When it comes to the player, here's what you need to know. Your level over the last few months should give you the confidence to go into tryouts with a certain expectation of yourself to perform, right? Based on the work you've already done. Meaning if you've done the work the last few months, not that you don't need to stress, because I get it. Like tryouts can be stressful. We get it. But you've either done the work or you haven't. And tryouts are really just a confirmation of that work that you've put in. If you go in with a different mindset, it might be rough, right? If you go in it's like any test. If you didn't do the work, right?
You didn't do the homework.
Didn't do the homework. Of course, now when it comes to this final exam or this exam over the course of a day or 2 days to show what you've done, to show what level you're at, you might struggle. Yeah. You might struggle. So players have to, and this is what we're here to talk about, but players have to flip that script for themselves and reshape how they think about this entire process.
Absolutely. And that internal conversation can also be an external conversation, right? That can be a conversation that happens with parents as well to talk about, hey, how have I done in the last few months? What have I been working on? What have I been improving? Many kids work with a private trainer. You could have that conversation there and say, hey, what have I been improving? Or what else do I need to add to my game? Also reflecting with your coach. Some clubs are adopting IDP plans, individual development plans or programs, where they give you those evaluations. So what was said 3 months ago? and have you improved that? Talking to your coach. A lot more clubs and teams are using film. Watch your film. So many kids have access to film, and sometimes I'll ask, a kid in various different spaces, have you watched your film? Sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes it's no. Well, why would the answer be no? If you really want to improve and you have access to the film, it's a great tool that I know that, even 5-10 years ago, a lot of people didn't have access to. And now most clubs, most teams have access to video. And so the development is in your hands. And sometimes I think the individual, whether it's a kid or it's a parent, it's a family, they think that that's outside of your control. It's out of your hands, that process. And I think that we have a lot more control over that process than we think sometimes. And that self-evaluation is constant. It should be every single day, every single week. Even if it's just one question, hey, how did I train today? Right? How did I perform today? Are there certain things that I'm working on? Oh, did I meet those expectations or did I hit those metrics today? And if not, then you have to try again tomorrow. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's well said. And when you talk about that evaluation being every day, it's funny because and we've spoken about this, I think, in previous episodes. But when I was on recently in Portugal with a group of players, and we talked about, I don't know if I told you this, about the tool that we went over for them to craft their best performance.
What
right?
was the tool? Yeah, you didn't.
It's
Dive into it.
it's just this. It's just they were using their phones because it's accessible and putting in the notes app or whatever. Just like basically write up what your best performance is. Right. This is coming straight from the soccer psychologist, right? Playbook. But like, what is your best performance? What does it look like? What are you doing? In the day, in the hours leading up to going to practice or going to this big match, what are you doing to prepare? What are you doing to prepare? What does your performance in the match look like? I know I'm playing well because I do this, or I'm trying to do this. Really identifying that, scripting that for yourself, and then constantly reflecting, just like you're saying, every day, did I meet this criteria for myself? Right? So in this match, did I do these things? And then even before that, thinking back, did I prepare well enough for this? And if you're constantly doing that, if you have that mindset, and you've created a process essentially, because this is what we're talking about, is creating a process for yourself, you will then go into a situation more equipped, right? Feeling more confident, feeling prepared. And again, none of what we're saying is saying that like if you follow all of this, you're definitely going to make the team that you're going to make. That's
There's no guarantees.
No guarantees, and there might just be people who are better than you. It happens. But what we're talking about is very few people, right? Just in general, especially when it comes to sports and especially young players, it's hard. We don't coach enough with young players about giving them a process and establishing a way to prepare, and then a way to perform, and then a way to recover in anticipation of future performance. So this is it. And a lot of our guests, right, have actually spoken about this, and we'll continue to have guests who speak about this. And people, the young players listening to this, like, connect the dots here, connect the lines. All the time that we talk about, and we talk about these things, and all the people that we have will constantly talk about process, and we'll constantly talk about reflection. And this is no different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think then what you have to do is you separate that process from the results. We keep coming back to that. That's been a consistent theme as well.
On some level, yes.
On some level.
On some level, yes. But the results are important, but then you have to think beyond the results. At a certain age and stage of development, yes.
Yeah, but it's just the fact that the day-to-day is the process, right? And I think that if people understand even this concept of winning, right? Because we have this idea about winning. Winning can be done every day. Winning, we can talk about habits.
Winning is done,
If you're consistently performing certain habits, that's winning. You have established a process. You have established clear steps for yourself, right? And I think that's important because over time, then the results will come. They will come.
They will, yeah. Whatever those results are for you and for your level. Not everybody is meant to be. I mean, it is important to say because we talk about this is tryouts, right? And people want to make a team. Not everybody's meant to be a professional footballer. Hate to break it to you, not everybody can do it. There's a reason. There's a tiny percentage of people who do it. Not everybody's meant to play on a Division I team in college, and that's okay. right? Because even if you don't do that at the outset, from jump, maybe you find your level later, or maybe you have to do something else. At the same time, because this game can be played by anyone, and because everybody listening to this, taking the time to watch this and listen, is passionate about this sport, you then have a mandate for yourself, right? To hold yourself accountable to whatever it is that you want. And the thing is, you can't lie to yourself. So there's the other thing about tryouts is don't lie to yourself. Don't go into tryouts thinking, oh yeah, I definitely have to make the top team in this age group when you haven't been training as a top player, right? Let's say you were on the second team in your age group and you weren't putting in extra work, or you maybe asked the coach of the top team, or sorry, you didn't ask, right? Or you didn't want to, even though you had opportunities maybe, but you didn't want to go train with the top team, because this happens a lot, right? You and I have both heard stories where players can have the opportunity to go test themselves against those players, and maybe they turn it down, right? Or maybe sometimes they just don't go, or they miss out on. It's like, hey, listen, you're missing out on opportunities. If that is what you want, that's what you say you want. As much as possible, put yourself in those opportunities to test yourself against those players who are supposedly better than you. Because then when a tryout time comes around, you're not going to be daunted by that task of facing them, right? But if you haven't put in that legwork, why would you expect to now make the top team? You see what I mean? And sometimes that's a harsh truth that people don't want to hear, because everybody wants to make it. Oh, I get it. But have you done the work to make it?
I think it's a great point. It's a fantastic point. And you're not, coming back to the idea of, you're not going to play above your level, right? You could always certainly play below your level, wherever your level is. But you're never going to jump and play above your level. So if you're on that second,
if you haven't been training it,
if you're on that second or third team, and you haven't been performing well, you haven't been training consistently, you haven't been at training consistently, you haven't been playing, or you haven't been playing consistently, then it's going to be really hard to surpass players that are already ahead of you, right? Like, these players are already ahead of you in theory. So it's so much harder, right? You're playing catch up. And to play catch up, you actually have to catch up, whatever that entails, right? That may be extra training on the side. It could be trying to pursue extra training opportunities. I know some clubs do have pretty connected networks where the first team will have a relationship with the second team, or will have a relationship with the third team. Sometimes those conversations are open between the coaches. Hey, maybe we need a guest player, or we need some numbers for training. If those opportunities can be found, then absolutely seek those opportunities out. I know something else that you and I have talked about in previous episodes is just this idea of, even within your own team, you don't even have to go find another team, even if it's in the same club. Try to train and play as much as you can. As many touches on the ball as you can, as many games, little small-sided games as you can play extra in the week, whatever your time allows for. Try to get that, because again, if you're trying to improve, you can't do less than the people that are in front of you. That's not how improvement works, and so that has to be an idea that is ingrained in you, regardless of what team you make. And maybe your process changes in this next season, and see what that looks like. Is okay. Well, if that's where I want to go, it's okay to feel the emotions of the tryouts. If you're happy, you're sad, whatever, that's okay. Feelings come and go. Accept it. But then afterwards, now you have to create a new plan, right? You have to make some adjustments. If you're not where you want to be, you have to make adjustments. And I think that's also important. And it's something that coaches can do a better job of helping players with. But you also have to reflect for yourself. If you're not where you want to be, what will it take? What could it possibly take? Start that reflection on your own. Then maybe you start to talk to your parents. Then maybe you start to talk to some coaches. Say, hey, coach, that's where I want to be. What does it take? What do those players have that I don't have yet? Right? It's a great question to ask.
So I guess maybe one of the segues would be now in terms of the actual on the field process. You're playing, you're trying out. Players always ask, well, what can I do to stand out? What would you respond? How would you respond to that? Or where should we begin that discussion?
Yeah, I think get away from what you think coaches want to see, and focus on what it is you do well. What are your player qualities? What's your profile of player? So in whatever position you play, you have a certain skill set. What is that skill set? What do you do well? That's what you should be looking to do in a tryout. Obviously, tryouts are chaotic. I just had a text from a friend, and I asked him, "Hey, how are your tryouts going?" The word he wrote back was chaos. Right? There's so many kids, there's so many players, so many things going on. When you get the opportunity in the tryout to show what you can do, you have to show it in that moment because it may not come again. It's a very unpredictable environment. You're maybe playing with players that you've never played with before, and that can be tough because you don't know their tendencies, you don't know their qualities. Maybe there's certain patterns in the game that they're used to, that they've trained in their team or whatever, or maybe that you've trained in your team. When it comes together, it's not gonna be as cohesive as you might imagine. So in those moments where you have one or two chances to do and show what you do well, you have to take those opportunities. So that's one of the main things I would say as a starting point. Just setting that expectation that it's going to be messy, it's going to be chaotic. Learn to recognize that moment where you need to show what you can do and kill that moment. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, listen, I feel for players going through tryouts, man. I really do, because it's a lot of players, and it depends on the context. And this is where, again, much of our critiques, our lens can be slightly different, right? Because as in a director's role, my job sometimes is to set up tryouts, right, in certain situations, and I'm always trying to think about how to make it as useful for the players as possible, right? Regardless of the perception, people cannot like it, whatever. They can grumble about it, but I will always maintain whatever decisions are made, it's done for the quality of the experience for the players. Players want to have you want to have less players at a tryout when possible, so that you can show. That's true. You want to have as many coaches as actually. Let me say this. You want to make sure coaches give enough time. It's not so much about the number, okay? Because if, let's say, you have 50 coaches around the field, right? But let's say there's only 2 coaches for that team. Do you notice a problem here? Those 50 people may all have different ways of looking at something, and they have to communicate. But now that communication has to happen over 50 different people, and things can get lost in translation. And what happens if all 50 of those people are watching the same 1 or 2 players and like going, wow, right? So it's not so much about the number. What it is about the time spent looking at players holistically. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, you're not going to be perfect in a tryout. Your performance isn't going to be perfect. And that's why the player's psychology here is so important. And understand that coaches understand that, at least the good ones and the good environments understand that you're going to mess up in a tryout situation. Mm-hmm. There are going to be things that don't go your way. Your team, whatever, if you're playing scrimmages, might lose a game, might lose 2 games, might lose all the games. Or you're in a team that's doing really well. And we all, as coaches, we have to all balance this, right? But here's the kicker, and this is what I want to leave players with. There are things that you are in control of that pretty much universally across the board all coaches are looking for to help improve their teams. What are those things? 1, are you assertive? Okay? Meaning, are you going to be the kid who's shying away from getting involved? Or are you going to go seek to get involved? And not just mean run to go get the ball, but it can be anything. It can be bigging up your teammates, encouraging them, right? It can be communicating. And of course, younger players maybe might struggle with actually, verbally, like what to say. However, that's something that we can help them with. And the top players, not even just knowing what to say, they know what to do, right? My team needs this. I'm going to do this. Okay. So it's about taking the responsibility there, right? Being aware of what's going on. I use that acronym AIR, right? That's my thing, right? Which is like AIR, awareness, intentionality, responsibility. All coaches are looking for players who have those things. Are you aware of what's going on in the game? Are you intentional? So I was actually coaching a group of players yesterday, and I noticed this player had fantastic little player. He tried the same pass 3 times. All 3 times it didn't work. The next time the pass, he actually connected it. But then I had a little word with him about why the first 3 times it didn't work. Because he tried a splitting pass. It was a 2v2 game that they were playing. And the conversation was, the reason that I told him, and he's a smart player, but I was like, listen, do you know, when I showed him as well with the ball, it's because he was looking at the pass he wanted to make and he was staring it down.
Yeah,
and
telegraphed it.
He telegraphed it. He didn't impact the defender at all.
No disguise.
There's no exactly. But and so I showed him, listen, if I want to pass, let's say, through these players, my first look might be here to the left to make eye contact with this player and make it seem like I'm going to pass it square to him. And as soon as the defender sees that, what does he do? He takes a step this way, which is what happens.
And now that gap opens.
And now the gap opens even more. And the time that my timing can be, I have a little corridor of time that I can make the play, right? And now that he makes this move, and now my teammate ranks that run, and now I play it, boom. And then you can get into another detail of now, even if the defender reads it again, I can also put disguise on my pass, or I can evade the defender's leg with my pass, so I might lift it. All the passes he tried to split, the first 3 were on the floor. So after I show him those 2 things, guess what he does? He's playing. You know what he does? He does it. He gets the ball. He looks one way. He doesn't try it again, but he waits, and then once the moment presented itself, he made the splitting pass, and I just went. Now, he had the benefit of my intervention there, right? But my point is this. Let's say you're in a tryout situation where the coach is not necessarily going to intervene like that, right? Because it's a tryout. We're leaving you to your devices for the most part. By the way, that's also a plug for, we talk about how tryouts can be run differently. There's some argument that some people and some clubs, some coaches I know will say, we put players in like a training session, which could also be useful. I think that's great. Why? To see how they take instruction. All right. But most tryouts that you and I have been a part of, and certainly most clubs, will have a bunch of scrimmages. So players are not being coached. Okay, that's fine. So coaches or players have to then take it upon themselves to fix their mistakes. And if you're the type of player that is not going to, that's constantly going to try the same thing and not going to reflect and learn, and not going to have that short memory, you're going to struggle.
That feedback has to be your teacher. And I mean, when I say feedback, I'm talking about the success or failure of that action, right? So what went wrong, right? Like you described with this player, the gap wasn't there, right? You didn't disguise it. The defender didn't move. So you have to be able to have that mental process of saying, okay, I tried something. It didn't work because of technical execution. It didn't work because there wasn't disguise. It didn't work because my teammate didn't make the run. It didn't work because whatever, right? So you have to identify what that is very quickly. And so then the next time that opportunity presents itself, now you can change your approach. That has to be there. Yeah.
And then the last thing I would put in, so we have the awareness. You got to know what's going on, the intentionality to make these subtle changes and to be purposeful with your movements, your actions, your interactions. Then this third thing, and this is what this is so important, right? Players have to be able to transition quickly. When the ball is lost, coaches are looking for what your reaction is. If you're the player that throws their arms up, stops, walks, complains, whatever it is, it's an instant red flag or knock against you. And this is universal. All coaches, whether they can speak to it or not, they will be like, I don't know if I like that. What coaches do see that they like is a player makes a mistake, whether it's you or even better, even if it's your teammate, and you're already transitioning and you're thinking next action, that's something that will help you stand out at a tryout. It's something that will also help you navigate that. But remember, again, taking this full circle, think about the mindset you have to be in to operate that way. You have to be in the present. You have to be loving what you're doing. And then you also have to have the humility and give other people enough grace and yourself enough grace to know things aren't always going to be perfect, but it's about what you do next. And that's something that you have to train. You see how you can't switch that on or off. The reason players struggle to do that in a tryout is because they struggled to do that for the last several months. It's how they've been playing. But there's a reason top players are top players, is because at any age, right, pretty much at any stage of development, top players lose the ball, and what are they thinking? What are they doing right away? Trying to win it back. You don't even have to tell them. It's instant. And even better players look at a situation and they can read the game and they can know when their teammate is about to lose the ball. And so what do? They adjust their position accordingly. Now, I hope all the players listening to this are in environments where they have coaches who can appreciate these things. Because some people might say, oh, yeah, but our coaches aren't looking for that. Hey, fair enough. I feel you, and I feel sorry for you in a way. But I do think most coaches will recognize those attributes in a player and will want that kind of player on their team.
And what I would add to that is then if those aren't the qualities, you need to figure out what they are. Then what are they looking for, right? And so maybe you already have that criteria, or you need to ask and figure, okay, what type of player are you looking for? What kind of traits are you looking for? That's really, really important. So sometimes it means asking questions of the coaches, maybe of the directors, and trying to probe and figure out these answers, because every club is going to be different. Every environment's going to be different. So it's really, really important.
Yeah, man. How would you want to close this off, man? What would you want to leave the people with?
I just want to come back to what you said at the beginning, the joy and the gratitude. I can't state it enough. This game is such an awesome game. Don't allow this 1 or 2 days to dictate your joy and love for the game, or to dictate how the next 7-8 months goes for you. 9-10 months goes for you in this upcoming season. Enjoy every second of it. If you have clear goals that you want to reach, then understand that you need to develop a process, and understand you need to be consistent in that process and constantly evaluating yourself so that you can potentially move closer to those goals. And I think that's what the priority has to be coming out of this tryout season that we're in now. So, any last word?
Nah, brother, it's on you.
All right, man. Well, this has been another awesome episode of the Impact Space Podcast. Thank you all again for your support. Please continue to like, subscribe, and share. We are on YouTube, we're on Spotify, and we want to continue to grow this project. So thank you again so much, and we'll see you again next time on the Impact Space Podcast.